thank you so much for coming out. I know it's early, so thank you for coming. My name is Klaus Nelson. I'm an executive coach, former monk. This is my friend and colleague, Elizaveta, who also is a coach and meditation teacher. And we'll talk a little bit about mindfulness, how it relates to being busy and buzzy, and how to integrate it into our lives as a means of actually functioning better. Because the idea behind mindfulness is not that it's not a chore, it's actually a mind management system that makes us better at everything else, right? So Elizaveta will do an exercise with us towards the end. First of all, I'm talking a little bit about, shall we say, the theory behind it. As was said, I spent a number of years in India as a renounced monk. That means getting up early. I know it's early, but I was up early, like 2:30 a.m., meditating for hours, studying ancient scriptures. The reason I did that was because I was actually a founder of a company, and I burned myself out, and I took, in my extreme mindset, I took an extreme decision and said, let me try to negate all of that and just let everything go and become a monk in India. Funny enough, that a lot of the clients I work with today say that on a daily basis that thought pops up, right? Like, where are we even going with this? And is it even worth it? And why am I feeling so stressed out when I'm actually, on the surface of things, being successful, right? So as a monk, I found out that there is a tremendous amount of inner peace that I gained access to, right? Which was exactly the medicine that I thought I needed. But then after a while, the thing about being a monk is it's kind of boring, right? So then the pendulum had swung to the other extreme, and I'm kind of sitting there, okay, I got out of the burning building, but there are still people inside the burning building. So what I'm doing now is standing on this stage and talking to you, trying to fuse these two things together, because the original idea behind mindfulness, behind spirituality, is that we integrate it into our life, right? That it's a way of living. It's a place to be, not a chore to do or a thing to put into the calendar, right? And so to try and illustrate how that works, we can talk about 4 energies of success, right? So, comes up there. 2 of them we definitely know. Work, right? There's not going to be any results without work. We all know it. Work hard and you will succeed, right? The problem with that is, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be working real hard and getting nowhere, right? So you need knowledge as well. There are plenty of people in the world working, like exhausting themselves and burning out and never really getting the results that they are looking for, right? So you need knowledge as well. And in the East, knowledge is not just data points. It's not just Googling or information access, right? Because we all have access to unlimited but always incomplete information, right? It's a level playing field today. Everyone has access to the same information, the same resources, like theoretically, right? So what is the differentiating factor? Well, in the Eastern term of knowledge, it's the ability to string together the information, the ability to decide what information is relevant, how nuanced do I have to look at this problem in order to get to a solution that is good enough. Does that make sense? It's actually reducing information rather than gathering as much as possible, right? And today, AI is the buzzy thing, right? And so AI, what it does, it actually reduces information for us. It deals with huge amounts of data and then gives an output to us that's reduced. But if we don't know what that output is, what the output we want is, then it won't work. So knowledge is actually the ability to understand the field we're in, the knowledge that is relevant, and how to interact with other people, right? That's great. Now we can actually start a project, that takes work, but we can also make it successful. That's where the knowledge comes in. The problem is that starting up a project or getting the great idea is one thing, running it is something different, and that's where we go to character, right? A certain set of character traits. This is a big part of what I do with my clients, is work on your personal character, how you fit into all of this. Because very often my clients are actually successful, but they don't feel successful, and the irony is, if you don't get what you want, you know why you're unhappy. But when you do get what you want and you're still not fulfilled, not only are you unhappy, you're also confused now, because now what do I do? And that's when the cave in the Himalayas starts to pop up as a potential solution, right? So then the character teaches us that we have to actually be detached from the results. It's actually about a way of being. These are the people who are not only successful at starting something up and making it work, but also running it, because they're able to maintain lasting beneficial relationships after it's all. They don't burn their bridges, they don't stab people in the back. This is actually a long-term solution. The problem now is that even if you do everything right, sometimes you still get the wrong result. And that's where the last part of mindfulness actually comes in, because it integrates into everything we do, right? Is meditation. That place inside yourself that I went for 7 years, it's always inside us. What I realized is, and this is corroborated by Eastern scriptures, is that the soul, our human soul, is always happy. It's an intricate part of the soul to be happy. The reason we're not experiencing that happiness is because we're too caught up in the quarterly or the hiring or firing or the promotions or the social media or all of these externals. When we get too caught up in that, we forget to notice that we're actually okay. Just breathing is actually a pleasant experience, and we'll get to that later. We'll demonstrate that, right? So to incorporate meditation as a daily practice allows us to do that. It's a skill you can train, right? There's some people that were just born with it. They hover into a room and everyone pays attention to them, and it's super annoying, right? But it's actually a skill you can teach, right? And meditation is the tool to do that. It's like the upside down world. Like, you get it by letting go of it, right? The more you chase it, the more it runs away. When you stop chasing it, there it is. It was always there, right? So in that way, mindfulness is actually everything that we do, from the gross physical work to the subtle knowledge of the field and what it is we're doing, to the personal character that we bring into the room when we enter, and then the ability to detach from it and remember that actually our happiness is always there. All we have to do is breathe. And that way, you can have the business, you can grow it, you can scale it, you can exit, and you can be happy the whole time, right? You can be fulfilled without having to search for it in a cave or an ashram in India. Because if you can't find it at the South Summit, you're not going to find it in India either. Because it's inside of you, right? And it's a teachable skill. And so with that, I will hand it over to Elizaveta, who's going to take us into a more practical demonstration of this.
Thank you, Klaus. And it's so good to be here. Thank you, everyone, for coming so early. We really appreciate it. And I want to just reiterate the point that Klaus is just making here now, which is meditation is really not something you do. It's a place you go, and it's a place you go inside of you. So it's a place that's always available. It feels incredibly pleasant because how it makes you feel, in essence, is that you are both relaxed and focused at the same time. And we are going to do a little practice as well today, just so you know how to get to that place quite easily. And as promised, it's going to be an 18 seconds practice, so it's something very, very quick and, applicable in different contexts of your life, be it, during your business meeting on your Zoom call or where you're driving, anytime, if you're trying to fall asleep, it's gonna work too. So it's a very simple breathing technique that we want to teach. And it's called 7-11 meditation. Beyonce has a song similar to that. Some of the girls would know. And in fact, I do want to invite you to stand up to do it together. So if you can please leave your phones just for a minute. Thank you so much. And we'll have a little collective experience. We all survived COVID. We need it. If you can stand up, thank you. And first, I will explain you how it works. It's super simple. And then we'll do it together as a one cycle as well. So how it works is 7 counts for your in-breath, and then 11 counts for your out-breath. And that's it. And when we make our out-breath longer, we send a signal to our brain that it's time to relax, because our out-breath is responsible for our parasympathetic nervous system, which is, again, responsible for relaxation. So it goes like this: 7 counts in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's your in-breath. And then 11 counts out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And you breathe everything out. Is it clear? Yeah? Super. So first, take just a natural breath, the way you like it, the way your body feels like it. Just one natural breath. And then we start doing breathing for 7 seconds. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And now a natural breath. And that was 18 seconds. It's as simple as that. Please record this feeling. Please record this feeling. I'm going to say it twice. It's that important that you just grasp it. And then you know how to get back to it. And it's so simple. And I do invite you to just, if you remember one thing, remember taking out breaths more than in breaths, just to relax and focus easier. And thank you for standing up. That is as quick as that.
You may sit down.
And
yeah, I just wanted to, because it's such an interesting thing, this point about, first of all, like 18 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. Because by far the most what I hear is I don't have time.
Yeah.
Right? Like not only, and in that relation, there's like a Buddhist saying that everybody in the world should meditate for 20 minutes a day, unless if you don't have time, then you should do it for an hour. Because what we said in the beginning is literally true. You become better at everything else if you learn how to relax and find out that you're actually already happy. That means the amount of time you will save during the day from this, like literally we're talking about seconds, is going to accumulate. This is the thing, the difference between material and spiritual. Sometimes we think spiritual is like airy-fairy, it's not really practical, yeah. But actually material, you can look at it like this. Material is something that you can overdo. The more you do it, the less effect you get, like chocolate cake, right? The more chocolate cake you get, the less happiness you'll get from the chocolate cake. I had a little bit of chocolate cake this morning. The first spoon was glorious. I was liberated. All my troubles went away. The last part was kind of like, not any more chocolate cake. And then I'm eyeing them, should I get more chocolate cake?
And then
right?
You wanted more.
And exactly, right? And imagine if I could still be sitting there eating chocolate cake now, right? But now you have diabetes issues and overweight, and right? That's essentially material. But with these types of techniques, it's the other way around. Like the more you do it, the less effort it is, and the more results you actually get.
Yeah.
So we were just talking yesterday about how meditation is actually, it's the only thing you can't overdo.
Yeah.
Even health, right? We were talking about health freaks. They're not actually that healthy. They always have some extreme diet, like professional athletes. They always have joint issues or eating disorders. They've overdone health, but meditation, you can't overdo it. And it just kind of, everything else kind of starts to fit in, and the priorities in life become clearer, right? We were talking yesterday about maintaining contact with your loved ones, because the energy that they give you will be a resource that you can draw on when it's crunch time and you just really have to pull through, right? So rather than doom scrolling on TikTok or something, like spending time in nature, spending time with family, and although they may not be directly spiritual activities, they're kind of a natural fallout of having a certain spiritual practice in your daily life, right? So this is sometimes, very often, I'm sure you'll agree that for these high performers that we work with, it's very often that how do I prioritize all of these things? And analysis is not a great way to do it because there's so many factors. It becomes too complicated. Whereas just letting go and relaxing and allowing your whole system to be at peace with itself, it just pops up. Call your mom. I actually have to call my mom after this. And it's not you don't have to spend energy on it. It's rewarding instead. You get into a positive cycle of energy rather than a negative cycle of energy, right?
Yeah.
So.
I think what we are saying also is that any experience in life can be a meditative one. Whatever you do can be your form of meditation if you only think about it in that way. Whether you're walking, whether you're talking to someone, whether you're by yourself, again, meditation is not a to-do item. It's a way of being. It's a way of presenting in the world. It's a way of experiencing the world, which is a highly subjective experience, right? And anything you do, professionally, personally, can be a meditative practice and experience. And when you feel like you snapped out, like your mind is racing, it's jumping from a thought to another, to the third, to the 100th, then remember there is a way to get back to that place inside of you. And remember, it can take as little as 18 seconds to just, get, again, relaxed, focused, very present, and hopefully, maintain that for as long as you can. But you will be snapping out of that state. And all it takes is to recognize that I'm out of that meditative state, and we all know how it feels. We can see children when they're playing, and it's just beautiful. They're not thinking, they're just living and feeling, and they're having a great time for sure. So we will be snapping out. And what's important is to recognize we got out of that state and then know what to do to get back. And again, this 18 seconds is as long as it takes to just, ground yourself, get back, and play.
I really love that analogy of playing, because it is, and this is also described often in the Eastern tradition, to become childlike rather than childish. You have two options. There's not a third option. If you're not childlike, you will be childish. So childlike is like everything is a game. And you see the 5-year-old kids playing football. They hit the ball, they don't hit the ball, it's all great, right? But then you see the professional footballer and the interview after the match, like, how did it go? Well, I'm not really sure that attack, and in the second half we were a little bit, it's like, they've become so good at it that it doesn't, like, unless everything is literally perfect, which, big surprise, it never is, there's going to be some kind of resistance, right?
Yeah.
But that resistance is not there in the children. So the children are childlike. Life is a game. And often the things that don't go the way they want are the most fun. You see the kid missing the ball and falling down, and everything's fun and games, right? But the more skilled we become at it, the more we become attached to be able to predict the outcome, and we never can. And that means we won't learn from the outcome. Does that make sense? Like, the outcome that we didn't expect is the one that we learn from, that we grow from, that we become better versions of ourselves from. And if we're too attached to the outcome because we're analyzing too much, that means that will be barred from us, that we repeat the same mistakes over and over again. So these techniques are really there to help us expand our mind and take in the world as it is, not as we want it to be, right? And that's where the play comes back, right?
Yeah.
When it doesn't go the way that it was supposed to or we thought it would, it's actually often better, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. Do you want to add anything?
I think I'm good. I mean, just on a larger scale, that would be an interesting place to go now. Like on a social political scale, right? Because people sometimes ask me, like, do you think everyone should meditate? And I always say I think it's a human right. We're living in a brainwashing machine. Social media, advertisement, other people always want to influence us, right? And so having that space, it could be 18 seconds, it could be a practice in the morning before you go out the door, where the world is not invited to manipulate you or influence you, and that you have that experience that, no, I'm good, I know who I am. That's a human right, but I would take it even further, actually. I would say, technically, it's a human obligation, because when you then walk out the door, you will be a better influence on the world as well, right? And what we have today is a situation where the passion in our culture has become so high that we're all stressed out. Like, I work in London, and sometimes I work with lawyers, tech founders, finance people. I walk into a room full of these people, and I sometimes open with, "You're all burning out." I have not ever had one person disagree with me, right? So meditation personally is an ability to avoid burnout, right? Because it is expensive to fix burnout.
Yeah.
Especially if you're if you're a high performer, you're out of the workforce for a year. That's a six-figure sum that you've lost out on. Your expenses are still there, so that's more money. Now you re-enter the workforce at a slower pace, and you've dropped down a few notches in the hierarchy. This is life-changing stuff, right? Burnout is no joke at all, right? So if we can avoid that, that's splendid, right? But on the bigger scale as well, why are we all burning out? Because we're all burning out, right? We're affecting each other as well. We come into this. So on a personal level, you can enter into the room full of people who are too excited and not be too affected by it. But you also avoid affecting other people with your stress, right? So you get this positive synergy effect that actually, like, we become more than the sum of our parts instead of kind of being a destructive force on each other. And this is very subtle, right? This is like social. I dislike the word microaggression, but in reality, there really isn't a better word to describe what it is. Like small hints at, I'm not getting what I want, and it's always there. It was one thing I experienced as a monk. For years, I didn't have a phone. It was glorious. And then I came to London because I started giving lectures in the West. And I could just feel the vibration. The energy of people was just like, zzz, right? This was just as smartphones was coming out. And I had this joke when people were lost in their smartphone. I would walk past them and snap. And they would be like... I thought that was fun. After a couple of years, that stopped working. I would walk past someone, nothing would happen. And try it today. You see someone lost in their smartphone, they won't look at you. That's how good these tools have become at manipulating us and drawing in our attention, right? So if we want to create a better, abundant, beautiful tomorrow, meditation is the tool to do that, because it allows us to liberate ourselves from all of these. I mean, the fact is AI is smarter than we are. We've been saying it for like 70 years, that in 15 years computers are going to be smarter than people. Well, here we are, right? This is the way that we avoid being completely sucked in, right? So it's a human right, it's a human obligation, and everyone should technically do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love this point about how, especially now, it is just crucial to be mentally tough. You know, there are people who are more resilient to, you know, technology and its manipulation, and it's becoming more difficult with time, because technology is becoming better and more advanced into knowing how to direct our attention. So if you find yourself like scrolling on your phone and not being very mindful about the fact, again, you know the tool now, and it's 18 seconds that it takes to just snap out of that state when you are guided somewhere you don't necessarily want to go, and take your mind where you choose to go. Because really, I think our job with meditation is to make our mind work for us, right? And to make it a very deliberate tool that serves what we want to achieve in our life, where we want to get, where we want to pay attention. And remember, attention is something we pay, right? So there is a cost that comes to it. And focus is something we gain. So I do hope that when you find yourself in a state where you're directed by your phone and any technology around you to a place where it wants to go, you just snap out. You know, you take 18 seconds, you know how to do it now, and you be deliberate about where you pay your attention, where you invest your time, your life, your energy, and it just feels damn good. That's the short answer. It just feels good, right? It feels damn good. So I think we want to leave you with that, right? We'll be around for a few minutes, just maybe outside the room.
Come chat with us if you want.
Come chat if you want. Tomorrow we're also talking at 10:45. We'll be covering mental fitness for founders. So that's going to be growth stage, fireside chat format. We hope to see some of you there. And again, thank you so much for being here so early in the morning. Meditate, breathe out. Thank you
so much.